stop. Don't scroll. Don't skip, because what I'm about to say might be the most uncomfortable truth you've heard in a long time. You think you're busy, but you're not building a life. You're escaping one. Every day, you wake up rushing. You eat fast, talk fast, walk fast, think fast. Your mind is constantly running like it's being chased. And you call it hustle. You call it ambition. You call it responsibility. But deep down, you know something is wrong. Because even when you rest, you still feel tired. Even when you achieve something, you still feel empty. Even when life is moving forward, you feel like you're falling apart inside. And here's the scary part. Most people won't realize what rushing is doing to them until it destroys their peace, their health, their relationships, and their entire identity. You don't lose your life in one dramatic moment. You lose it slowly. In the small moments you don't notice. In the conversations you don't fully listen to. In the mornings you don't enjoy. In the dreams you keep delaying. And one day you wake up older, exhausted, and confused, wondering where time went. But listen to me carefully. This video is not motivation. This is a warning, because if you don't learn how to slow down, life will force you to slow down in the most painful way possible. So stay with me until the end, because I'm going to show you why your rushed life is silently ruining you, and how to take back control before it's too late. Let's get something straight, because this is where most people lie to themselves. They call it productivity. They call it ambition. They call it the grind. They say, I'm just busy, I've got a lot going on. But if you look closer, if you really pay attention, what you'll see is not discipline, it's not focus, it's not even hard work, it's fear. And that's hard for people to accept, because fear doesn't always look like fear. Fear is not always shaking hands and panic attacks. Fear is often dressed up in responsibility, it's dressed up in urgency. It's dressed up in a packed schedule and an overloaded calendar. Rushing is not a sign that you're winning. Rushing is a sign that your mind has lost control. Because a calm person doesn't rush. A person who knows what they're doing doesn't rush. A person who has clarity doesn't rush. They move with intention. They move with direction. They move like they own their time. But the rushed person moves like time owns them. And what's interesting is, most people don't even realize they're rushing. It becomes their normal. They wake up already anxious. Their heart is racing before their feet even touch the floor. They check their phone instantly, not because something important happened, but because their mind is addicted to the feeling of being needed, addicted to the feeling of urgency. And you have to understand why that is, because urgency makes you feel important. When you're rushing, you feel like you matter. When you're overwhelmed, you feel like you're doing something meaningful. When your schedule is full, you can tell yourself, look at me, I'm building something. But the truth is, a full schedule is not proof of a full life. Sometimes it's proof of an empty one. Because if you slow down, you might have to face what's really going on inside you. If you slow down, you might notice the loneliness. You might notice the dissatisfaction. You might notice that you're living a life you didn't actually choose. You just accepted it because everyone else is doing the same thing. And that's what makes rushing so dangerous. It doesn't just waste your time, it protects you from truth. Rushing becomes a shield against silence, a shield against reflection, a shield against the uncomfortable question that most people are terrified to ask themselves, am I actually happy or am I just distracted? That's why so many people can't sit still. They can't enjoy peace, they can't relax without guilt, they can't be alone with their thoughts without reaching for entertainment, scrolling, or noise, because the moment the noise stops, the mind starts talking. And for many people, that voice inside is not kind, it's full of pressure, full of doubt, full of regret. So they rush to escape it. But let me tell you something that should hit you hard. If you need to rush to feel okay, you are not okay. And here's the deeper truth. Rushing is rooted in a false belief. The belief that if you slow down, you will fall behind. That belief is everywhere now. It's in social media, it's in hustle culture, it's in the way people talk about success. They've convinced you that if you're not moving at full speed, you're losing. That if you're not constantly achieving, you're wasting your life. But look around. Has all this rushing made people more fulfilled? No. It has made them more anxious. Has it made relationships stronger? No. It has made people more impatient and emotionally unavailable. Has it made people healthier? No. It has made them exhausted, sleep deprived, and mentally burnt out. Because the truth is, rushing is not the same as progress. Rushing is movement without mastery, and movement without mastery is chaos. Think about it. When you rush, you make careless mistakes, you speak without thinking, you react emotionally, you cut corners, you lose your ability to listen, you lose your ability to notice details, you lose your ability to make wise decisions. Rushing doesn't just steal your peace, it steals your intelligence, because wisdom requires space. Good judgment requires stillness. The strongest people are not the fastest people. The strongest people are the most controlled people. They know when to move, when to pause, when to wait, and when to speak. They don't live in constant reaction mode. They don't let life drag them around like a dog on a leash. But the rushed person is always reacting. Reacting to notifications, reacting to problems, reacting to other people's moods, reacting to pressure, reacting to deadlines. And if you live in reaction long enough, you stop leading your life. You start being led. That's the real cost of rushing. It takes away your authority over your own mind. And when you lose authority over your mind, you become easy to manipulate. Anyone can pull your attention. Anyone can create urgency in your life. Anyone can make you feel like you're behind because your nervous system is already trained to panic. And you know what's even worse? Rushing becomes an identity. People start to feel proud of it. They brag about how busy they are. They brag about how little they sleep. They brag about how they're always on the move. But that's not strength. That's dysfunction disguised as ambition. A disciplined person doesn't brag about being busy. A disciplined person is quiet. They are selective. They protect their energy. They don't chase everything. They choose what matters, because here's what rushed people don't understand. The goal of life is not to do more. The goal is to do what matters and do it well. And the irony is, slowing down often makes you faster in the long run, because when you slow down, you stop wasting time on nonsense. You stop saying yes to everything. You stop trying to impress people who don't even respect you. You stop living like you're running out of time, and you start living like a person who is finally in control. That's what calm is. Calm is control. It's the ability to stay steady in a world that tries to shake you. So if you want to change your life, don't start by adding more tasks. Start by removing the urgency. Start by questioning the ush. Ask yourself, why do I feel like I'm always late? Why do I feel like I'm always behind? Who taught me that my worth depends on my speed? Because once you see it clearly, you can break it. And when you break it, you will feel something most people haven't felt in years. Peace, not the peace of doing nothing, the peace of knowing you are moving with purpose. So slow down, not because you're weak, but because you're finally wise enough to realize this simple truth. A rushed mind can never build a powerful life. Now let's go deeper, because this is the part people don't want to admit. Living rushed doesn't just make you tired. It changes who you are. It rewires your personality. It reshapes your emotional life. It alters the way you see the world and the way you treat people. And the reason it's so dangerous is because it doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, quietly, like water wearing down a stone. Most people think rushing is just a habit, something they can fix later, something temporary. They say, this is just a busy season. But for many people, the season never ends. It becomes their entire life. And eventually, they don't even know what calm feels like anymore. They lose the ability to be present. And presence is not some trendy word. Presence is the foundation of a meaningful life. If you are not present, you are not truly experiencing anything. You are physically there, but mentally somewhere else. You're eating, but you're thinking about work. You're talking to your family, but your mind is calculating what you need to do next. You're driving, but you're replaying conversations in your head. And that's why rushed people don't feel fulfilled. Because fulfillment doesn't come from doing more. Fulfillment comes from being fully in what you're doing. But a rushed life makes that impossible. A rushed life keeps your mind in the future. You're always chasing, always anticipating, always preparing for the next thing. And the tragedy is that life only exists in the present, but the rushed person almost never lives there. So what happens? They start to feel empty, and they don't know why. They'll tell you, I don't know what's wrong with me. They have a job, they have goals, they have money coming in, they have people around them, but something still feels missing. And what's missing is not more success. What's missing is connection, connection with their own emotions, connection with other people, connection with reality. Because when you rush, you stop feeling deeply. You don't have time to process. You don't have time to grieve. You don't have time to appreciate. You don't have time to love properly. And love requires time, not just time on a clock, time in the heart, time in attention, time in patience. That's why rushed people become impatient people. They interrupt, they react quickly, they assume, they judge, they get irritated over small things, they don't listen fully, they don't notice the tone in someone's voice, they don't notice the sadness behind someone's smile, because their mind is too busy trying to get to the next moment. And over time, this begins to damage relationships, not because the rushed person is a bad person, but because rushing makes you emotionally unavailable. You may be physically present, but emotionally absent. You're there, but not really there. And people can feel that. Your partner feels it. Your children feel it. They may not say it directly, but they feel like they are competing with your stress, competing with your schedule, competing with your mind that's always elsewhere. And eventually, they stop trying. This is how rushing creates loneliness. Not the loneliness of being alone, the loneliness of being surrounded by people but still feeling disconnected. And here's another consequence people don't talk about enough. Living rushed turns your life into a constant state of low-level panic. Your body is always producing stress hormones, your nervous system stays activated, your brain is nightly scanning for what's next, what could go wrong, what you might forget, what you might miss, and you might not call it anxiety, but that's what it is. It's a form of chronic anxiety disguised as a busy lifestyle. That's why rushed people struggle to sleep. They lie down, but their mind keeps racing. Their body is tired, but their brain won't shut off. And even when they sleep, it doesn't feel restorative. They wake up exhausted because their nervous system never truly rested. And when the nervous system never rests, the personality starts to change. You become more irritable, you become more reactive, you become less patient, you become less creative, you become less resilient, because resilience requires recovery. A mind that never slows down cannot recover, it cannot heal, it cannot reset. And that's when people start to feel like they are losing themselves. They don't recognize who they've become. They used to be calm, they used to be joyful, they used to have hobbies, they used to laugh easily, they used to have dreams. But now they feel like a machine, like a worker, like a person who exists only to complete tasks. And that's the psychological danger of a rushed life. It makes you forget your humanity. You stop asking meaningful questions. You stop thinking about your values. You stop reflecting on what matters. You stop listening to your own conscience, because everything becomes about speed. And speed is the enemy of meaning. Meaning requires depth. Depth requires stillness. And stillness requires courage, because it takes courage to stop. It takes courage to sit in silence. It takes courage to look at your life and ask yourself, is this the life I want? Is this who I want to be? Most people avoid that question because they're afraid of the answer. So they rush harder, they work more, they stay busy, they stay distracted. They keep moving because movement feels like progress, even when it's just avoidance. But here's the truth that needs to be said clearly. A rushed life doesn't just steal your peace, it steals your identity. Because you can't know who you are when you never stop long enough to listen to yourself. You can't develop wisdom when you never sit with your thoughts. You can't build strong relationships when you treat every moment like a race. And you can't enjoy success if your mind is trained to always chase the next thing. So if you feel exhausted, if you feel disconnected, if you feel like life is slipping through your fingers, understand this. It's not because you need a new job. It's not because you need more money. It's not because you need a bigger goal. It's because you need your life back. You need to slow down enough to remember what it feels like to be alive. Because the greatest tragedy is not failure. The greatest tragedy is living so fast that you forget who you were meant to become. And here's the closing truth you need to sit with. If you don't slow down, life will eventually force you to. Now let's talk about the part that separates ordinary people from powerful people. Because most people assume that the ones who win in life are the ones who move the fastest. They think success belongs to the loudest person, the busiest person, the one who is always doing something, always grinding, always chasing. But that's not what real success looks like. That's what insecurity looks like. Real winners don't rush. They move with control. And control is not something you're born with. Control is something you build. It's trained, it's developed, it's practiced, and it starts with one simple decision. Why? Outstop allowing life to pull you around. The truth is, most people don't have a time problem. They have a control problem. They don't control their emotions. They don't control their reactions. They don't control their priorities. They let the world decide what matters, and then they wonder why their life feels chaotic. Because if your mind is constantly reacting, you will never lead your life. You'll only respond to it. And a person who lives in response mode is always behind. They are always trying to catch up. They are always feeling pressure because their life is being dictated by whatever screams the loudest. A message comes in, they respond instantly. A new problem appears, they panic instantly. Someone disrespects them, they explode instantly. Someone criticizes them, they collapse instantly. They have no space between stimulus and response. And that space is where your power lives. The strongest people on earth are not strong because they have perfect lives. They're strong because they have control over their inner world. They don't let their emotions hijack them. They don't let other people's urgency become their emergency. They don't let distractions steal their destiny. They stay calm. And calmness is not weakness. Calmness is mastery. Because calmness means you can think clearly when others can't. Calmness means you can make wise decisions when others are panicking. Calmness means you can stay disciplined when others are impulsive. Calmness means you can stay patient when others are desperate. And desperation is what destroys people. Desperate people chase relationships that don't respect them. Desperate people accept jobs that drain them. Desperate people settle for lifestyles they don't even enjoy. Desperate people rush into decisions that cost them years. But calm people don't do that. Calm people evaluate. They observe. They take their time. They don't confuse urgency with importance because they understand something very deep. Speed is not power. Direction is power. You can run fast in the wrong direction and still ruin your life. That's why so many people are exhausted. They are moving quickly, but they're not moving wisely. They're working hard, but they're not building anything meaningful. They're staying busy, but they're not becoming better. And that's why slowing down is not just a lifestyle choice. It's a psychological strategy. Because when you slow down, you start to see clearly. You start to notice the patterns in your own behavior. You start to recognize the habits that are keeping you trapped. You start to see which people are draining you and which people are strengthening you. You start to notice what you're avoiding. You start to notice what you're afraid of. And that clarity is uncomfortable at first, but it is also liberating because clarity gives you the power to choose. Most people don't realize that the greatest privilege in life is not money. It's choice. It's the ability to choose your response. It's the ability to choose your pace. It's the ability to choose your priorities. And if you don't have control, you don't have choice. You have impulse, you have reaction, you have chaos, you have exhaustion. So let's talk about what discipline really means. Discipline is not forcing yourself to do more. Discipline is the ability to do what matters, even when you don't feel like it, and to ignore what doesn't matter, even when it's tempting. That's real discipline. Discipline is saying no to distractions. Discipline is saying no to unnecessary arguments. Discipline is saying no to people who demand your time but don't respect your peace. Discipline is being able to sit still and work without checking your pH, 1 every 5 minutes. Discipline is being able to walk away from noise. Discipline is being able to wait because patience is a form of strength that most people don't have anymore. They want everything instantly. They want results instantly. They want success instantly. They want love instantly. But life doesn't work like that. Everything meaningful takes time. Confidence takes time. Wisdom takes time. A strong body takes time. A strong mind takes time. A strong relationship takes time. And the person who can slow down and stay consistent is the person who eventually wins, because life rewards the steady person, not the frantic person. It rewards the person who keeps showing up, not the person who burns out. It rewards the person who builds brick by brick, not the person who keeps chasing shortcuts. This is why calm people are dangerous, because calm people don't waste energy. They don't spend their life reacting emotionally to every little thing. They don't argue with everyone. They don't fight battles that don't matter. They don't try to prove themselves to people who are committed to misunderstanding them. They conserve their energy for what actually matters, and energy is your most valuable currency. Not money, energy. Because you can have money and still be miserable if your mind is exhausted. You can have opportunities and still fail if your attention is scattered. You can have talent and still waste your life if you don't have discipline. So when you slow down, you're not losing time, you're gaining focus, you're gaining emotional stability, you're gaining authority over yourself. And when you have authority over yourself, you become unstoppable. Because the world cannot control someone who is calm. The world cannot manipulate someone who thinks clearer. Why? The world cannot break someone who is patient. And that's the goal. Not to live fast, not to live busy, but to live intentionally, to move through life with a calm mind and a clear purpose, to stop letting other people's urgency dictate your pace, to stop letting society pressure you into rushing your own journey. Because your life is not a race, it is a construction, and the greatest things are never built in a hurry. So the next time you feel that rush, that pressure, that panic, that feeling like you have to move faster, do more, prove more, chase more, remember this: you don't need to speed up. You need to wake up. And the moment you choose calm over chaos, you choose power over panic, you choose control over distraction, your life starts changing immediately. Because the person who controls their pace controls their destiny. And here's the closing statement you need to carry with you. Slow down, or life will speed past you without permission.